Sometimes I forget that most of the royal families of Europe carry the witch gene. Now, this does not mean that they're all witches themselves, but it means that quite a few of them have the potential to be. And that's really terrifying when you think about it. So let's go through some of the royal witches in American Horror Story, starting off with number 1 and probably the most important one, Queen Victoria. Now, without this woman right here, I think we would have less problems magically when it comes to royal witches, but without her, there probably wouldn't be as many. Now again, I should reiterate that we don't actually know what makes a witch in this universe, but you do have to have a witch ancestor, that's for certain. However, I don't know if there's another characteristic or set of traits that you need to express the witch gene. Now, as the mother/grandmother of all of Europe's royals, it reasons that Queen Victoria and Prince Albert are likely the progenitors of this witch gene in this family line. All of them, I might add. However, because Europe is set up the way it is, or at least the royal families of Europe are set up the way they are, inbreeding was definitely a thing. So it's very possible that there was more than one witch-gened ancestor that they shared between all of them, and that's why there could have been more witches in this family than another, perhaps. So it wouldn't be uncommon if one of the children of these unions had more than one royal ancestor who carried the witch gene or might have been a witch themselves. Case in point, the Romanov family. Now, fun fact, for those who don't know, Alexandra of Hesse, or Hesse, I don't know, was actually Queen Victoria's favorite grandchild. In fact, she was slated to be the Queen of England, but love prevailed, or maybe sadly and unfortunately did prevail, because she would later go on to marry Tsar Nicholas II of Russia, and we all know how that story ends. But fun fact, not only was Alexandra Queen Victoria's granddaughter, but Tsar Nicholas II was related to Victoria on both of his sides. So again, this whole family right here, magical, but strangely only one of them, Anastasia, had the witch gene. Now this isn't to say that the other sisters or Alexandra or hell, even Nicholas and Alexei didn't have it, but we know that only one of them manifested it. And if you haven't seen that, go ahead and watch season 8 of American Horror Story Apocalypse. It kind of breaks that down. But again, this is only one example of one royal family that had these witch bloodlines, and it just ran through both of their parents. Now again, I don't know if any of the other girls, or at least Alexei, would have manifested gifts later, but we know Anastasia had them, and they were very weak, despite the strong connection to witchcraft through both of her parents. Another famous royal witch on our list is Josephine Bonaparte, the wife of the famous Napoleon Bonaparte. Unlike Queen Victoria, who descended from a line of crown blue bloods, Josephine's origins are a bit humbler in nature. Now, this isn't to say that she was a brokey, but relative to Queen Victoria, she was substantially less wealthy. However, she is a descendant of the landed gentry of the time through her father, and then her mother was also descended from the aristocracy, which meant that she lived a pretty comfortable life. However, that doesn't mean that it didn't have its twists and turns, because her father was landed gentry. Now, if you're confused on what that is, just think of the TV show Bridgerton. All of the Bridgerton brothers would have been landed gentry, except Anthony, who actually had a title as Viscount. Everyone else, though, they made money off of the properties and through the estate, and as a result, that's how they got their money. However, money is always enough to talk, and it can bring you into spaces you wouldn't otherwise have access to, and that's how Josephine managed to get around, and of course, eventually she would go on to marry Napoleon. Now, why is Josephine Bonaparte relevant to American Horror Story? Well, if you remember in season 8, Zoe is teaching the new class at Miss Robichaux's how to do the rose-changing spell, and this spell was designed by Josephine Bonaparte to change the color of the roses in her garden, and this is one of the spells that the girls are learning at the table, with our girl Zoe here teaching them. Now, the next set of witchy royals on the list are the Borgias. Now, of course, this one is unconfirmed, but I speculate that they may actually be a family full of witches. Now, we do know that the Borgias were a pretty influential family, so it wouldn't strike me as odd if they used some of that witchcraft to elevate themselves socially and politically, so I can see that happening. But I also think the most iconic Supreme that the Covens ever had, Miss Fiona Borgia van den Wevel-Good, was also a descendant of the Borgias. Now, this is fully dependent on how you interpret her driver's license. In my opinion, I don't see Fiona having any use for a middle name. This is somebody who revels in her lineage, and as a result, she would want to keep a name as distinguished as Borgia. It would remind her of the royalty her family once held at one point. But then again, if it was her middle name, it would likely just go to show the type of character she had. The Borgias were known to be cutthroat and ruthless, but I could see it going either way, but it's fun to speculate regardless. Now, even though this video was supposed to be about royal European witches, I couldn't leave Tituba off the list. Now, even though she's not European, she's definitely a royal, but that's a story for another day. But anyways, drop your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if I missed a royal witch, somebody who should have been added to the list, and I will see you guys in my next video.